Before, I talked about why betrayal seems to hurt so much. Now, if you're a normal person, you've probably felt betrayed at some point, or at least had someone in your life who was just painfully awful towards you for no apparent reason. Most of the time, this leads to a hidden resentment, and it causes us to want to do something back. Of course, we've always heard that taking revenge is bad, but we can't help wishing the worst for the people who've genuinely done us wrong. So I'm going to cover why that is and how to handle it in a way that actually works for you. Because if you're anything like me, I don't believe we as humans can truly forgive people who have done something genuinely wrong to us. Now, before I go into explaining that concept, I need to first cover why we feel such a pull toward wanting revenge as such a normal response. The truth is, there are many difficult and cruel people in the world. Sometimes they're openly cruel, and other times it comes from someone you never expected. Maybe it's a person who hides it well, and in front of everyone they look wonderful, yet solely to you, you know exactly who they are. The real point here is that you will eventually feel resentment or even hatred towards someone at some point in your life. People do bad things all the time, and for now I won't focus on explaining why they do it, but rather our response to it. When someone does something bad to us, we can't help but never forget. Instinctively, we don't forget. And being told to just forgive them feels fundamentally flawed. Because what do you mean I should be the one letting go because of the actions of another? The thing is, we remember bad being done to us far more often because our brain prioritizes threat over anything else. When we feel discomfort, a lack of freedom, or a sense of betrayal, our brain naturally marks it as important. It could be that our ego was hurt, our reputation was damaged, whatever it may be, we remember it. And most importantly, it feels unfair. In psychology, there is something called the Zeigarnik Effect. For those unfamiliar, it describes how people tend to remember unfinished or interrupted experiences more than completed ones. And this plays a big role in why we remember the bad others have done to us. Because when we are wronged, it rarely feels finished. It feels unresolved. Someone might give a poor apology if you're lucky, but sometimes they don't even say, "I'm sorry." There's no proper ending. And because of that, the mind keeps returning to it, trying to resolve something that never fully closed. This, alongside things like ego and pride being hurt, is what keeps the memory alive and later turns into the desire for revenge. And I'm not going to shame you for that. Socially, we like to pretend we'd never stoop that low, but that often feels like cope. If someone does something wrong to you, why should you ignore it? Why should you forget it? But before you go and do something in response, that's not what I'm trying to encourage. I have a different perspective on why forgiveness is important, and it has nothing to do with them. The problem is this: when we carry resentment, especially when it's unresolved, that person stays in our mind. They take up space. They come back in thoughts, in conversations, in quiet moments. And the real question becomes, why are you allowing your mind to stay there? Each day, we have a limited amount of cognitive energy. We can't think clearly all the time. We're constantly dealing with distractions, urges, responsibilities. So why should that limited energy be spent on someone who provides no real benefit to your life or your goals? I've seen this especially in relationships. People take it the most personally. I've seen people genuinely trapped by what their past partner did. They talk about it constantly, like they're haunted by it. They never let go of that memory or that story. And that's what resentment does when it isn't handled properly. That person hasn't forgiven them, and because of that, they're being robbed of their own energy every single day. Instead, we should be learning from everything and everyone. That is exactly why the mind remembers it so well. It's not just pain, it's information. It's meant to teach you, to build your intuition, to prepare you for similar people in the future. As I've said before, everyone can be useful to you in some way. Even someone cruel can teach you how to recognize them earlier, how to manage them better, how to avoid giving them access again. And I prefer this approach because it gives you control. You create your own ending. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure from them. You take what was useful, and you move on. And this is where most people miss something important. A lot of what people do to you is completely outside of your control. Someone might act badly because they're insecure, tired, jealous, or dealing with something you'll never understand. That doesn't excuse what they did, but it does remind you of something important. Their behavior belongs to them. Your response belongs to you. And if winning in the end is what truly matters, then wasting energy on things you cannot control is a poor decision. You cannot force someone to regret what they did. You cannot force them to understand you. You cannot force fairness out of someone who doesn't care about it. But you can decide whether they remain a distraction or become a lesson. And to me, that's what forgiveness really is. Not forgetting, not excusing, not pretending it didn't matter. It's simply deciding that they no longer deserve space in your mind. Because at the end of the day, winning in the end is what truly matters. So be honest. Would you really be okay sitting with yourself, knowing you didn't reach your own goals? Not because you couldn't, but because you kept spending your limited energy concerning over someone else's actions? Take control and extract use out of them. This way it gives you a dedicated end to this event. It deals with the Zeigarnik Effect, and it betters you by what it was that you've learnt, even if you never attain anything you intuitively do, and that becomes far more forgiving than anything could have been on its own. Forgiveness was never about forgiving them for their sake, but for your own. You couldn't control their actions, but you can control your response and where you end up and what it is you decide to do.